So he's done it again. Austin Evans is back. He's been trawling various countries' versions of Amazon to find the latest revision of the PlayStation console. He's done the PlayStation 5 Slim, the new model. And I think this time he's raided Amazon Spain to get hold of the brand new revision for the PlayStation 5 Professional. And, well, he's done his teardown video. And we have learned new things about the new PlayStation 5 Pro. The extent to which these things are actually quite interesting will vary. But Oliver, you've paid particular attention to this video, so what do you make of it?
Yes, there are a few differences here that I think are interesting, although, as I think we'll find out very shortly, it's not as substantial as the differences that are in the new PS5 Slim revision. So there's a difference in power consumption that Austin Evans measured. I think it was about a 5 or 6 watt difference in Astrobot. Right. But PS5 units tend to have some natural variance between them, so not exactly sure how much to ascribe that to the new console itself, the new SKU, how much to ascribe that between natural variation between units. Oftentimes you see like a 10 watt, 15 watt difference between PS5 units and PS5 Pro units. So I don't think that's necessarily dispositive there, such a small decrease in power consumption. The noise difference is interesting, though. It's distinctly lower pitch and quieter. I think he pegged it as a 20% lower 20% lower in terms of its loudness, and it has a distinctly lower pitch, which makes it more pleasant to listen to. Now, to be honest, I think all the current generation consoles at reasonable distances are just about silent. We've come a long way since the days of the PS4 Pro jet engine, that infamous console, especially as it became more kicked up with dust later on in its life cycle. Like certainly now my PS4 Pro is extremely loud, so come a long way. There are some DualSense differences that are fairly minor. The battery configuration is slightly different, although there's no open battery compartment as we suspected there might be. Unfortunately, there's no replaceable battery, at least not without disassembling the controller to a substantial degree, needing like a spudger, needing various tools. So that's unfortunate. There is one less microphone. There's no microphone on the back of the unit, only on the front of the unit. I think the biggest issue here to me is they don't have that nice noise reduction tech that Nintendo is rolling for Switch 2. So, on PS5, when you're hearing people who are talking over that microphone embedded into the controller, it's a very poor quality audio source. So I don't think this changes that too much either way. But internally, the biggest difference seems to be a lighter power supply and fewer VRMs in the motherboard. There are a couple very small changes to the heatsink. Nothing too major, nothing nearly as extensive as the changes we saw at the PS5 Slim. So overall, this does not seem nearly as significant as the PS5 Slim redesign. The Slim was also downgraded in storage terms. This has no downgrade in storage terms. Even the externals of the device are mostly the same. It does not have a matte plastic finish completely all the way through like the PS5 Slim does. The only change from the exterior that's really noticeable is the fact that the fan bracket is no longer metal. Now it's plastic. That also contributes a little bit to the weight reduction. The fan is also a little bit lighter as well. If you open it up, the fan is slightly lighter, and it's a slightly different design, which contributes certainly to that noise reduction as well. But I don't think this changes anyone's opinions about PS5 Pro. I don't think it'll change anyone's purchasing decisions. I don't think there's any particular preference that people should have between the two units. Maybe if you're very sensitive to noise, you might prefer the new unit. But I think this is just a simple cost reduction exercise that shouldn't really offend anyone, but also shouldn't really entice anyone who was on the fence about PS5 Pro.
Right. I think also on the fan side of things, isn't it typically the case that Sony sources them from different suppliers and they have different characteristics?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, ideally, and I'm not making any suggestions for Austin Evans because I think he does a terrific job, but if you were to source like 10 units or something and sample it and aggregate it, but this is obviously a ridiculous exercise. There is some potentially a variance in fan suppliers between units, potentially a variance in other components between units that are causing some minor differences in operation, and potentially some differences in SoC power consumption, right? To hit a certain clock, you might need slightly different characteristics there, which will produce slightly different power draws as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing really to say about this. It's a very iterative series of changes, so there's not really much to comment on here. I do kind of wish, however, that it did have the matte plastics as opposed to the shiny ones. I think that's one of the big successes of the Slim, actually, the new Slim. as weird as that may sound, but it seems to be sort of like just very slight revisions here, as opposed to anything potentially game-changing. Whereas, with the Slim, it was the case, it's like, okay, there's this new model coming, it's going to have less storage available, and the current model is seemingly getting discounts, certainly in the UK. So if you're thinking of buying a PlayStation, probably best to do it now. No real sort of buying recommendations based on what Austin has uncovered here. But that's kind of about it. A bit of a non-event in many ways, right, Alex?
Yeah, so much so that I have nothing to say.
Yes, exactly.